For months, the scent of her favorite jasmine perfume in my empty house was a ghost. It lingered in the hallway long after she'd left, a sweet, painful reminder of the daughter who was no longer mine. I would sit in the silence of the living room we could now afford, tracing the patterns on the expensive new sofa, and think one single, stunned thought. How did all this money buy me such profound loneliness? For months, the scent of her favorite jasmine perfume in my empty house was a ghost. It lingered in the hallway long after she'd left, a sweet, painful reminder of the daughter who was no longer mine. I would sit in the silence of the living room we could now afford, tracing the patterns on the ex my life before the money was simple, woven from routines and small joys. I was a widow, a secretary for 32 years, and my world was my only child, Anya. We lived in our cozy, slightly shabby apartment, where the kitchen window stuck in the winter. Our life was a tapestry of inside jokes, shared takeaways on Friday nights, and dreams that were modest and out loud. "One day, Mum, you'll have a garden," she'd say. "One day, love, you'll travel wherever you want," I'd reply. The lottery win wasn't a jackpot of cinematic proportions, but it was life-changing. A few million. After the initial shock, my first feeling was pure relief. Anya's student loans gone. A safe, comfortable home for us found. Security, finally. I bought us a lovely, bright house with that garden she'd mentioned. I set up trust funds for her future. I was so careful, so fearful of the stories you hear about wealth destroying people. Pensive new sofa, and think one single stunned thought. How did all this money buy me such profound loneliness? And at first, it was beautiful. Anya, then 24, was thrilled. We planned the house together. She picked out paint colors. She talked about her business ideas with a new fire. I felt like I had given her wings. But slowly, the fabric of our relationship began to subtly shift. Her conversations started to orbit around things. A newer car, a designer handbag, a holiday to a place I'd never heard of. Her circle of friends changed, smoother, louder, always talking about the next big thing. The first real fissure appeared over something small. I had offered to pay for a modest, lovely wedding to her longtime boyfriend, David. A few weeks later, she presented me with a binder, a destination wedding planner. The cost was staggering. When I gently suggested it was a lot, she sighed, a new, impatient sound. "Mum, you can afford it now. Why think small?" There was a chill in her words, a sense of entitlement that hadn't been there before. It was the first time I felt like a bank, not a mother. The true betrayal, the one that stole the air from my lungs, happened 8 months after we moved. Anya came over, her face a mask of concern. She sat me down, held my hands, and told me she was worried. "With all this money, Mum, you're a target. And honestly, at your age, managing it is a burden. You've worked so hard. You should relax." My heart swelled with a foolish, motherly pride. She was looking out for me. Then she slid a set of papers across the kitchen table. "I've spoken to a financial advisor," she said, her voice soft and persuasive. "The smartest thing is to put a large part of the capital into an investment fund, for growth, for my future too. We just need you to sign some power of attorney papers so I can help manage it for you, to protect you." The room tilted. The words power of attorney landed like stones in my stomach. I looked from the dense, legal documents to my daughter's eager, calculated eyes. This wasn't concern. This was a strategy. She wasn't trying to protect me. She was trying to control what was mine. I refused, of course. My voice was quiet but firm. "I'm not signing my money over to anyone, Anya. Not even you." The daughter I knew vanished in that moment. The mask of concern fell, replaced by a cold, incredulous anger. "After all I've done for you?" She spat, a phrase that made no sense. "I'm trying to secure our family's future, and you're being selfish and paranoid." She left, slamming the door so hard a picture frame in the hallway cracked. What followed was a quiet, brutal campaign. The incident started small, then grew. She stopped returning my calls for days. When she did, conversations were short, laced with guilt. "David's parents think it's strange you're so possessive," she'd say casually. Or, my friends all say their parents would trust them with anything. Then she began to rewrite our history in public. At a small family gathering for my nephew's birthday, I overheard her talking to my sister. Mum's always been a bit frugal, you know? Scared. Now with the money, it's worse. She doesn't want me to have any kind of life. It's like she's hoarding it. My own sister gave me a puzzled, slightly suspicious look. The isolation began to seep in. The financial pressure started next. Invoices began to appear. A consultant's fee for the wedding planner I never agreed to. A hefty bill for interior design concepts she'd commissioned for my house without asking. When I questioned them, her texts were icy. These are commitments you made, Mum. A wealthy person has to honor their word. Or do you want me to tell them my mother won't pay? I started waking up at 3 a.m., my mind racing. I'd walk through the big, quiet house, running my hand over the cold marble countertop she'd chosen. I'd eat meals alone at the large dining table, staring at the empty chair where she used to sit. The receipts and invoices in my drawer felt heavier than bricks. The loneliness wasn't just emotional, it was a physical weight in my chest. I had a beautiful prison, built with my own good fortune. The turning point came from an unexpected ally, David, her fiancé. He came to see me one afternoon, looking uncomfortable. He was a good man, and I could see the conflict in his eyes. I'm probably overstepping, Mrs. M., he started, fidgeting with his cup of tea. But I can't watch this anymore. Anya, she's not herself. It's the new friends, the constant talk of deals and lifestyles. He took a deep breath. She has a plan. She's telling people you're becoming forgetful, that you're making poor financial decisions. She's laying the groundwork. She thinks if she can prove you're incompetent, she can get control. He looked mortified. She's my fiancée. I love her. But this is wrong. I wanted you to know what you're up against. After he left, I sat in perfect stillness. The shock had finally crystallized into something clear and cold. Understanding. This was no longer just a spoiled daughter asking for more. This was a premeditated takeover. The power balance I feared had tipped, but the revelation of her plan was my first piece of real power. Now, I knew. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I felt a strange, calm resolve settle over me. I was a secretary for 3 decades. I knew about organization, deadlines, and paper trails. My response was quiet, legal, and meticulous. First, I visited a new, highly recommended lawyer alone. I laid out everything. He listened, nodded, and we began to build a wall. We updated my will that very week. We fortified my existing financial structures, making them untouchable. I revoked any old, informal permissions she might have had. Next, I documented everything. Every guilt-tripping text message, every inflated invoice, every hostile email. I printed them, dated them, and filed them in a secure folder. I recorded the details of David's visit, with his permission. Then, I moved on the financial fronts. I paid the fraudulent invoices she'd sent with a clear, formal bank transfer, each marked Final Settlement. Invoice number. No argument, just a clean, documented severance of those claimed debts. I changed all my passwords, my security questions. I informed my bank and financial advisor in writing that under no circumstances was anyone but me to have authority, and to alert me to any inquiries. Finally, I planned a single, definitive conversation. I didn't want a public showdown. I wanted a private, factual reckoning. I invited her to the house for lunch, knowing the setting itself would speak volumes. She arrived, expecting perhaps a surrender. She was dressed for a victory, sharp and confident. We made small talk over food she barely touched. Then, I put my cutlery down. My voice was calm, the calmest it had been in months. Anya, we need to talk about your future, I began. She perked up, a smile touching her lips. I've taken steps, I continued. My estate planning is complete. Your trust fund remains for education or a first home, as originally set. But the bulk of my wealth is now allocated elsewhere, to charities, to a scholarship fund in your father's name. The smile vanished. What are you saying? I'm saying the money you've been campaigning for is no longer available. It was never for campaigning. It was a gift, and you treated it like a target. I paused, letting that sink in. I also know about your plan to question my competence. I have a letter from my doctor affirming my sound mind, and a file of every message you've sent me. My lawyer has copies. Her face went pale, then red with fury. You can't do this. I'm your daughter. That money is mine. It never was, I said softly, and the mother who would have given you every last penny died a little each time you tried to manipulate her. That woman is gone. What's left is someone who sees you clearly. The confrontation wasn't loud. It was a quiet dismantling. She spluttered, she threatened, she cried. But I just sat there, my hands folded in my lap, watching the strategy she'd built crumble against the simple, unshakable wall of my prepared truth. She left not with a slam, but with a stunned, quiet click of the door. The real victory wasn't keeping the money. It was keeping my dignity. That was a year ago. The silence that followed was different. It wasn't lonely, it was peaceful. I sold the big house. It was never a home, just a symbol. I moved to a smaller, sun-filled cottage with a real garden I tend myself. Anya and I do not speak. It is the deepest wound of my life, but it is a clean one. Sometimes, the scent of jasmine will catch me in a shop, and my heart will ache. But the ache is for the girl she was, not the woman she became. I used the money to build the life I'd always quietly dreamed of: security, comfort, and the freedom to be generous on my own terms. The scholarship in my husband's name awarded its first grant last month. The moral of this real-life story isn't that money is evil. It's that it's a mirror. It shows you the true colors of the people around you, and sometimes, devastatingly, it shows you your own reflection. I learned that wealth isn't about what you can buy. It's about what you choose to protect. I chose to protect myself.